In the 1940s, classical and popular music seemed worlds apart, like two siblings who lived in the same house who despised and cold-shouldered each other. This yawning gulf between two musical worlds was one of the main reasons why Bernstein's career as a composer was beset by difficulties.
Torn between the two warring worlds, Bernstein plunged back into classical music, cementing his reputation as one of the world's leading conductors. In 1953, he reached a pinnacle. He conducted La Divina, Maria Callas, at La Scala Milan, opera's holiest of holies. This set him thinking, could he do for 20th century Americans what Verdi had done for 19th century Italians? Give them their own modern equivalent of popular grand music theatre. At first, it seemed the answer was to resuscitate opera itself, but with a modern twist. The solution was West Side Story. It had great songs, lyrics, dance, storylines, and vitality. But it was much more than a slick and stylish night out. It had a musical ambition and scale that was almost unthinkable before it. There aren't many experts in the field who disagree with the notion that West Side Story is the finest musical of all time. I'd go further still. Widening the field out to include all forms of musical theatre, West Side is a serious contender for the 20th century's single most important work for the musical stage. In West Side Story, Bernstein found the key to his own personal musical dilemma. In doing so, he also pointed the way forward for generations of theatre composers, myself included. Nearly half a century later, West Side Story is still the standard to aim for. West Side Story began life as far back as 1949, when Jerome Robbins, Bernstein and dramatist Arthur Lawrence discussed the possibility of a modernised Romeo and Juliet set in Manhattan's East Side slums, pitting rival Catholic and Jewish gangs against each other during the Passover Easter festival. It was originally to be called East Side Story. The team pursued this version for another 6 years, until 1955, when a newspaper story in Los Angeles about gang warfare in a downtown Mexican neighborhood prompted a change of direction. They took what was still East Side Story and refocused it on newly arrived immigrant groups in New York, in particular Puerto Ricans. Realizing that the East Side slums had been demolished since they thought up the idea, they changed the title to West Side Story. But they still didn't have a lyricist until Bernstein was introduced to the 22-year-old Stephen Sondheim, who gradually took over the song lyrics. West Side Story opened on Broadway in 1957 and it was a gigantic hit. It played all over the world, and in 1961 it reached an even bigger audience when it was turned into a film.
Skyscrapers bloom in America, Cadillacs zoom in America, industry boom in America, wealth in a room in America.
West Side Story tackled one of the thorniest subjects of post-war America, race. Not many straight movies had done this by 1961, let alone a film musical.
Accent. Life can be bright in America
if you can fight in America.
Life is all right in America
if you're all white in America.
Here was something quite radical for a musical, whether on stage or on film. An urban, contemporary landscape in a show that portrayed, in song, drama and dance, the real street culture of its time. But not only did West Side Story have a grittier subject than previous musicals, it was structurally more ambitious too, and the complexity, the daring and panache of its musical shape came from opera. So what was it that opera offered the Broadway musical that proved so essential to its future development? Let's look at the difference between the two genres. Let's make up a scene and set it first as an opera and then as a musical. Supposing a man, Dennis, goes into a pub and confronts his ex-lover, Angelina. Once it's set to music, of course, it all becomes rather silly, but listen out for the difference between the two. In the opera version, the music's job is to tell the story at all times. So the second he walks in, the underscore tells us that something is afoot.
The usual police love.
bitter,
Bitter.
bitter,
Bitter.
Having established a disconcerting mood, Dennis tells us, through singing, two pieces of information. First, that he's given up smoking, and second, that he can't shake off his feelings for Angelina.
I've given up smoking, Angelina.
About time too.
I've given up smoking, but I can't give up you.
In the opera version, passions spiral quickly out of control. Angelina joins in with her own musical line. The melody shifts and changes, repetition in the tune is fairly rare, and the two musical voices seem to be competing for the listener's attention. It's a full-on musical argument.
Ever since we parted, the gods have treated me cruelly. The stormy winds of dark and angry jealousy have swept my aching brow. At night I toss and turn and dream of Angelina. My regret, my remorse, my bitter, empty heart.
You can waltz in here and ruin my life again. It's been months then, months since I found you in bed with that slapper from Tesco.
And sweep my aching around, and night I toss and turn and dream of Angelina. My regret, my remorse, my bitter,
silly heart.
But look at what might happen in the musical version. The build-up over the opening rhythmic pattern is mainly spoken. When the characters can bear it no more and emotion bursts out, the whole pub seems to be swept into it. The tune is instantly catchy, and even the musical conflict between Angelina and Dennis appears to interlock more easily. With a more predictable meter and rhymes, the lyric makes it easier for us to anticipate what's happening. We are being driven relentlessly into a distinct number that could be lifted from the show and work on its own.
I'm the usual, please, love.
What are you doing in here? Didn't I bar you?
You can't stop me coming in here.
Wanna bet? Thought you'd given them up then.
I tried, but I couldn't, Ange. I couldn't give you up neither.
Don't take the mickey.
Scout's honour. I love you, Angelina. I bloody love you and all. I can't give you up, Angelina. I can't kick the habit. I'm stuck in a hole, Angelina. I'm caught like a rabbit. Sweet return, for the smile, for the style, for the guile of you. My poor heart bleeds for my spiritual needs, for the lips and the zips and the hips of you. I can't give you up, Angelina. A sad nest of Giza. You're fit, but you're on, Angelina. The real cockney teaser. What I still ain't got. On the train, in the rain, I'm insane for you.
If you think
I see your touche and my head goes whoosh. What I miss is the bliss of a kiss from you.
You're all talking no charges, you're just like a
Angelina. I'm sad as the season. You're fit like you're on, Angelina. The real cockney teaser.
Here's the difference. The musical, whilst perhaps being more fun, tends to rely on big production songs involving dancers and other peripheral characters. Opera is more flexible, more subtle, more able to portray complex emotions, ability to respond to the needs of the drama that Bernstein wanted to smuggle into West Side Story. In West Side Story, Leonard Bernstein took the outward form of the Broadway musical and gave it a new drive and ambition, but he did it under the surface.
Even though West Side, like all successful musicals, is made up of a series of distinct musical numbers interspersed with spoken scenes, there is a fluidity, a sense of progression through those numbers, which belongs much more to opera than to most musicals. Making songs cohere and relate to each other over a 2 or 3 hour period without them all sounding the same is much harder to achieve than it may seem, and on the whole, most Broadway songwriters didn't even attempt to do it.
Here's just one example of a technique that Bernstein borrowed from opera. There's a little musical figure, a hook if you like, that first pops up in the opening orchestral prelude, just 10 seconds into the piece. This interval has lots of posh names in classical music: the tritone, the augmented fourth, the diminished fifth, or even the devil in music, as it was known in the Middle Ages. On its own, it's not exactly beautiful. It has a feeling of incompleteness because it makes one yearn to reach up to the so-called perfect fifth. The way this interval yearns to reach upwards, its incompleteness, even desperation, is precisely what Bernstein wants us to feel about his doomed young protagonists, Tony and Maria. So he plants it as a feature throughout the 2.5 hours of West Side Story. Here it is at the entrance of the Jets. And again, when the Sharks confront the Jets. The first solo of the piece is Tony's Something's Coming. This tune, too, is based on the tritone. Who knows, there's something due any day. So is his song Maria. Maria, I've just met a girl named Maria. And we're only halfway through Act 1.
As a member of the audience, you're hardly aware of the existence of a musical code like this. But subliminally, such a technique helps bind the whole thing together. It's what makes it a good dramatic musical and not just a compilation of nice songs. Tricks like these are always being used in opera. Bernstein put them to work in his jazzy and populist musical.
Another trick borrowed from opera is the simultaneous overlaying of several different vocal lines. There's a good example at the end of Act 1.
Here's another of Tony's big tunes.
Tonight, tonight, won't be just any night. Tonight there will be no morning star. Tonight, tonight, I'll see my love tonight, and for us, stars will stop where they are. Today, the minutes seem like hours, the hours go so slowly, and still the sky is light. Oh, moon, grow bright, and make this endless day, endless night.
Meanwhile, the Jets and the Sharks, on their way to a fight with each other, have their own ballsy chorus.
We're gonna rock it tonight. We're gonna jazz it up and have us a ball. They're gonna get it tonight. The more they turn it on, the harder they fall. Well, they began it. Well, they began it. And we're the ones to stop them once and for all. Tonight.
Bernardo, the leader of the Sharks gang, has a girlfriend called Anita, and she has her own distinct music in this same highly strung scene.
Anita's gonna get a kick tonight. We'll have a private little mix tonight. He'll come in hot and tired, so what? Don't matter if he's tired, as long as he's hot tonight.
As we build and build to the climax of the scene, the rumble, Bernstein starts layering these tunes one on top of the other. With its sense of impending violence and its electric, youthful energy, this scene in West Side Story was, I believe, the precise moment, mid-20th century, when popular and serious art collided gloriously in music.
So I can count to you, boy.
Right.
We're gonna have some ball.
Alright. Womb to tomb, sperm to worm.
I'll see you there about 8
Tonight.
We're gonna rock it tonight. We're gonna jazz it tonight. We're gonna get it tonight.
powerful layering of these themes, by no means easy to achieve musically, allows a whole complex of different and contradictory emotions to be expressed in one short piece of music. These people aren't agreeing with each other like in an old-fashioned Broadway musical. They're at war or in love, happy, angry, sad, suspicious or impatient or filled with foreboding, all at the same time. The complexity of West Side Story has few, if any, precedents in the Broadway musical. So where might Bernstein have found a model of how successfully to blend his various elements into a dramatic whole? We'd be looking for a populist music drama, not a comedy, with earthy, potentially dangerous characters for whom honour and death are inextricably linked. There would be a doomed love affair and the death of at least one of the lovers at the end. Musically, there would have to be total integration between the material written for the soloists, the principal characters, and for the chorus. This criterion alone would rule out most operas, virtually all operettas, and certainly all musicals written before the Second World War. There would be powerfully evocative dance rhythms, preferably Hispanic or Latin American in character, some provocatively sexy dance to go with it, and a beefed-up orchestra with exotic percussion. Oh, and it would have to be a piece that Bernstein had known intimately since he was a child and had had a significant influence on him as a young man. The funny thing is, such a piece exists. It's Bizet's Carmen.
L'amour est un oiseau rebelle que nul ne peut apprivoiser. Et c'est bien en vain qu'on l'appelle, si lui convient d'y refuser. Rien n'y fait mana sous prière, l'un valait bien, l'autre c'était. Et c'est l'autre que je préfère, il n'a rien dit, mais il me plaît.
No one seems to have noticed or pointed this out before, but it's inconceivable to me that Bernstein didn't even subconsciously have Bizet's monster hit in mind when writing West Side Story. There are just too many happy coincidences. Carmen's Spanish dances, seguidillas and habaneras, become West Side's Latin dances, mambos and cha-chas. West Side's macho street gangs are the equivalent of Carmen's soldiers, smugglers, gypsies and bullfighters. Now, Bernstein didn't copy Carmen. The two works are quite different, but Carmen, Bernstein's favourite opera as a boy, provided a ready-made example of fusion. West Side Story also mixes classical and Latin styles.
I like to be in America, okay by me in America. Everything's free in America, for a small fee in America. I like the city of San Juan.
I know a boat you can get on.
Hundreds of flowers in full bloom.
Hundreds of people in each room.
Automobile in America, Romeo steel in America, Maya smoke wheel in America, very big deal in America.
This riotously energetic toe-tapping huapango, as the rhythm is known, seems effortlessly joyous, but it's not simple. Bernstein is having enormous fun with the ambiguities of the accents that drive the rhythm along. It's as if Albert Einstein is throwing a party and he's organising the after-dinner games. Take this first catchy phrase. What's happening here is called a hemiola, and this is how it works. You take 6 fairly quick beats in a row called quavers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can divide those up into 2 groups of 3, 1, 2, or you can divide them up into 3 groups of 2, 1, 2, 3. As you can see, in each case, the accent or emphasis falls in a different place. Alternating between the two means that the basic pulse can stay the same, but the net result is that there's a kind of motor force, like an alternating current in the rhythm.
I'll drive a Buick through San Juan.
If there's a road you can drive on,
I'll give my cousins a free ride.
how you get all of them inside.
Immigrant flows to America, many hellos in America. Nobody knows in America, Puerto Rico's in America.
The hemiola, with its South American swagger, is wholly appropriate to the Puerto Rican immigrants in the story who sing it. There's absolutely nothing vaudeville or gratuitous about this showstopper. It belongs 100% to its characters and to its function in the drama.